retired recently, or maybe you're even thinking about retirement and wondering how your spousal relationship may be affected by the retirement. Well, that was me up until about 10 months ago when I finally got to find out firsthand. My husband and I, Brad, we've been married for 30 years. We built a life together. We raised kids together. We each had our own careers. And like many couples, we survived a lot together. But honestly, I had no idea what retirement together would actually look like. Both of us suddenly in the same house all day, every day, with honestly nowhere to be. And let me be honest with you, there were days the last 10 months when this was much harder than I had expected. In this video, I'm going to share with you my recent experience and how our relationship has evolved as a retired couple. Hi, I'm Sheila. I'm 64 and I retired about 10 months ago. My husband, Brad, was fortunate enough to be able to retire much earlier. But now that I'm home every day as well, we've had to make a few adjustments. This series, Real Talk Marriage After 60, is about the part of retirement I don't think anybody puts in the brochure, the relationship part, the we part. Because here's the thing, most of the retirement content out there, as you probably know, is about money or travel or staying busy enough that you don't notice you're getting older. And I agree, that stuff really matters. But what I kept thinking about, what I kept not finding, was an honest conversation about what happens to a marriage when the whole context of your life changes overnight. We went from two people with really full calendars, separate professional lives, and a marriage that worked beautifully, actually, in the margins of a busy week, to two people in the same house with no agenda and nowhere to be most days. Now, I want to be clear about something. I love my husband. This is not a complaint. This is just simply an observation. And I think there's a real difference, because what I've learned in these first 10 months is that you can love someone completely and still need to figure out how to live with them in a completely new way. Those two things can both be true at once. So here's what I wasn't prepared for. I had built my own sense of rhythm, my sense of self, honestly, around a structure that included time alone, a commute, an office door, a work trip, a conference, pockets of solitude I didn't even know I was depending on every day until those were gone. And suddenly, every hour of every day was shared space, shared decisions. What do you want for lunch? I don't know. What do you want? And as you probably know, I'm not even being funny here. That conversation happened sometimes more than once in the same day. The old marriage script said, more time together equals better marriage. You've earned this. Enjoy it. But nobody tells us that too much togetherness, even with someone you love, is its own kind of adjustment. And that feeling doesn't mean something is wrong with your relationship or your marriage. It means You're human. I also wasn't prepared for the way retirement changes the power structure of a marriage. And I'm using that phrase very carefully here because I don't mean it in a dramatic way. I just mean who plans things? Who manages the social calendar? Who knows where the insurance documents are? Who decides when to leave for the airport? When you're both working, those roles often develop organically over decades. And a lot of times you don't even necessarily notice kind of who's carrying what until the whole structure shifts. And as I said before, my husband was able to retire early. So honestly, most of the day-to-day operations of our household were being managed by him already. And now that I'm retired as well, we've had to renegotiate a little bit things we didn't even know we had originally negotiated, if that makes any sense. Before I keep going, if any of this is landing for you, I would genuinely love to know where you are in this whole process. Are you retired? Is one of you still working? Drop it in the comments below because this really is a two-way conversation and it only works if it goes both ways. So here's where I landed. And I want to be careful because I'm not going to pretend I've got this all figured out. I'm 10 months in, but here's what I know so far. The marriages that seem to do well in retirement are not the ones where everything is easy. They're the ones where both people are willing to say, this is different than I had expected, or this doesn't work for me. And then they talk it out. They talk about it. That's it. That's the whole thing. You don't need a 5-step program or a couples retreat unless you want one. You just need the willingness to say the true thing out loud instead of pretending the adjustment isn't happening. My husband and I had a conversation not too long ago while we were on vacation that I think all couples need to have at some point. It was honest and it was probably one of the better conversations we've had in a while. Because for the first time in a long time, we weren't talking about logistics. We were talking about us. And I think retirement, for all its disorientation, might actually be giving us that, if we're willing to take advantage of it. What I have specifically come to realize now that we're both retired is that it was time, probably way past time, for me to pick up my share, or at least a bigger share, of the daily responsibilities, like planning meals, paying bills, and handling home repair calls, for example. Things that my husband, by and large, had taken care of the last 8 years. So this is where we're starting. Episode 1, the part nobody put in the brochure. In the next episode, we're going to talk about something maybe a little controversial and something I think a lot of couples quietly experience, but nobody says out loud. And that is what happens when your spouse, significant other, becomes your roommate, and how that's actually not as bad as it sounds. If this resonated with you, if any part of this felt true, please subscribe and come back for the next one. I'm figuring this out in real time and sharing with you what I learned. So We don't have to do this alone. I'll see you in the next one.